Good afternoon, LEC community. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Ask an Educator. I am personally so excited because I love our guest today, and she's just going to bring so much energy and experience and insight, and I cannot wait for our community to hear from you. Today we have Connie Espinoza-Springfield. How are you, Connie?
Hey, I'm doing great. I hope everybody's doing great out there. Can't wait.
Yes. Well, community, like I was telling Connie, I have poison ivy all over myself, and so I'm wearing a spaghetti strap. So I'm sorry that it's like kind of informal, but Connie, that teaches me the lesson of like not doing yard work anymore, and it's going to be my excuse from now on and not help my husband. It's just like, I don't want to get poison ivy, you know? So, well, Connie, we're so excited to have you. We've had you in our community for years now. You attend our events. You're in our book studies. We appreciate how big of a part of our community you are. Tell our community that's watching about yourself. Tell us your leadership story. Who are you? Where do you come from? And how'd you end up here?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. The Latinx Education Collaborative has been very proactive in trying to recruit educators of color at all levels. So I just want to give you some props on that because it's not an easy effort. I've been in education for 25 years, and I can tell you, even as an administrator, because I am an associate principal, by the way, and I'll go into detail about that, but being able to recruit and find the people in the right places. And sometimes there's just so many struggles in trying to get, teachers of color or educators of color to, jump on board at the high school level. I do see a lot of either elementary and middle school, but it's very, or early education, but it's very hard at the high school level. So first and foremost, thank you for all of your efforts that you are doing with the Latinx Education Collaborative, and it's about time we have a association that finally gets that we do need educators of color in places, okay, and at all types, urban, suburban, and even rural. So first and foremost, I'm Connie Espinoza-Springfield. I made sure when I got married, I did hyphenate my name to also identify as Latina, because a lot of the times when you just read Connie Springfield on paper, you're thinking, Caucasian lady, even though I do color my hair. But I color my hair because we don't want to see the white hair on there. But originally I'm from El Paso, Texas, and went to Stephen F. Austin High School, which is Sandra Day O'Connor's alma mater high school. For those that don't know who Sandra Day O'Connor is, she was one of the justices who served on the Supreme Court. So I just want to make sure to do a shout out for her. She has been passed, but still it's an honor to know that I went to her high school. From there, I was in the honors program in high school, and I didn't even know that I was smart, even in the honors program. So when I left high school, I had received some information from my counselor in high school saying, hey, this school wants to talk to you, this college does. And I'm like, okay, I'll go see what this college representative is all about. And it was the Ecuadorian counselor from Park College, because Park College was very international, and it still is. It's now Park University, but they're very international. And ended up happening that I ended up getting a full ride to Park College at the time, and it was for academics and athletics and some financial aid for the room and board. And that's when I was like, oh, finally, I have an opportunity, because, when you're in El Paso, Texas, there's not a lot of opportunities there besides going to the local university or the junior colleges right there. So, and the other thing, being Latina, your parents, I don't know about other Latino, families, but I know in my family, they wanted you near home. They, worry about you and everything you do, you always do with your parents. So that's always been just our culture. And so it was kind of hard. And my mom had to give up a lot to make sure that I can fly over there and get registered for college because, you know, going from El Paso to the Midwest, you know, I had a culture shock. You know, I've never seen so many white people before in my life. And so that was something that I had never experienced before, but it was the best decision that my parents finally came through for me and allowed me to go on to college and pursue my my whatever was to come. I originally wanted to be a computer science engineer, so I became a chemistry and math major, and then I just did an emphasis in education because everybody says you must have a plan B at all times. And so came out to be that, you know, I went to observe a lab and I go, oh my gosh, they're so boring. Like I can't work in this environment. So the good thing that helped me is because I also played volleyball and I coached USVBA, United States Volleyball Association, for Junior Olympics. It was called that then back when. So when I had found out that, you know, I do enjoy athletics, so I might just try, you know, teaching. Why not? And at the time, I had to finish my certifications, and so finished with that. And in April, before I graduated in May of '95, I went to school for 5 years because I became a double major at Park University or Park College then, and found out that I really loved coaching and teaching at the same time, but I got hired in April before I actually graduated from college at Fort Osage High School. And I was there, you know, I even had an option. They're like, well, do you want to be a math teacher? Do you want to be a chemistry teacher? And I said, well, let me check both situations. And sure enough, I said, well, if I'm going to be coaching, I'm not going to have a lot of time to set up labs for chemistry and all that. So I ended up being a math teacher. And in the process, I was able to teach geometry, honors geometry, and a college algebra class. But at the same time, my claim to fame is a teacher. And I taught for 7 years at Fort Osage, as well as coached for 7 years at Fort Osage. But I have the luxury of having Albert Pujols, who's, you know, that Major League Baseball player from, you know, the Dominican, and he was with the St. Louis Cardinals. And at the time, the Kansas City Royals didn't want him. And, you know, it was between the Dodgers, and then he wanted to be closer to home, so he chose the St. Louis Cardinals, which they were, you know, he did an amazing job for them, and now he's with the Los Angeles Angels now. So that's my claim to fame as a teacher. So I was there for 7 years. Then I said, you know, I'm going to work on my master's. I seem to somehow be a good representative for the minority students. So at Fort Osage, there wasn't like, you know, it was rural at the time. Back in 1995 was when I was there. But found out that they all cloned to me, all these minority students. I'm like, okay, I don't even have you in class, dude. Why are you seeking me out? And so come to find out, I was like, well, you're Latina, so you get us. I'm like, oh, you know what? I never thought about that. So, you know, being a chemistry math major, you're thinking, okay, you're just there to take care of business and then you're done. But that was not the case. So, you know, there was more that you have to offer just because of, you know, who you represent, your culture, and students who just would clone to you that you are more than just a teacher. And so you're their safe place, in other words, where they can kind of express themselves even more and are more comfortable. So then I go, okay, I need to do something more. So I ended up doing my master's at UMKC. And best experience ever was urban leadership, and I ended up getting my master's at UMKC. When I finished, I ended up then going on to being a vice principal in Kansas City, Missouri School District, because I go, you know, I'm bilingual and I can help these students too. So I never thought other districts would need someone who's bilingual. I just said, I know KCMO, there's a lot of need. And I'll tell you, that was my best experience ever working in Kansas City, Missouri School District at the time. I think now they're KCPS, or yeah. And so being there, I tell you what, I was a vice principal for 2 years at Northeast High School. Then I was a vice principal or head principal at Westport High School. Mm-hmm. I did not know that Westport High School was going from charter to public. I just know receiving a call from the superintendent saying, hey, Connie, how would you like to be the principal at Westport High School? I'm like, yeah, sure. Well, sure enough, at the time, I didn't know much about the charter situation there. I had only been in the district for 2 years, but they took everything, phones, books, desks. I didn't have anything. So I now have learned how to start a school from the bottom all the way to the top. So it took me networking with all the local churches, the neighborhood associations. I even opened the field up to the Kansas City rugby team to go ahead and practice on the field, because we weren't using the field as much. Once football was over, it wasn't used as much. So I go, okay, you guys can have the field, but we need to build a partnership here. So they donated a lot of supplies to the school that I wouldn't have to spend even more money out of the budget. Budget was limited as far as starting everything from scratch, getting cameras, getting a desk. They brought me a desk. This was donated by the local church and the local rugby team. So there was a lot, and I had to work Monday through Saturday, and my only day off was Sunday. At the time, I was principal just because of all the changes. And but it was the best experience that I could have had, because that's how you learn from the ground, right? The biggest thing, that's how you learn, hands-on. And at the same time, so after being there for 2 years, then I got asked to help with the principal at Lincoln College Prep. So at Lincoln College Prep, I ended up working there for a year. I was still placed as a principal, not by title, but by pay, but as a assistant principal to help the principal, because she was in charge of both the big building, the high school, and the middle school. And so I had been working with the Kansas City Hispanic Chamber to help with the BizFest. So I had been there 2 years right after it had started. So I was not one of the original people. I wish I would have been, but the original people were big CEOs and, the big wigs of Kansas City at the time. Yeah. And so I jumped in the second year that BizFest started and had been part of it for the last 11 years since then. Wow. And in those 11 years, I got to, build partnerships with 32 area high school districts, 32 different high schools that we represented. But, there's a lot of power in the community in Kansas City. People want to help in Kansas City. And that, I can tell you, there is a lot of support for educators. You just have to be able to know how to navigate in Kansas City, Missouri. So, but anyway, helping with the Kansas City Hispanic Chamber, then Shawnee Mission was also involved, but they wanted to start hosting this in their district. So then I was like, well, I never thought it, the associate superintendent at the time came and talked to me and said, hey, how come you don't work in Shawnee Mission? I go, I don't know. I live in Shawnee Mission, but I didn't think you needed any bilingual administrators. And they're like, oh yeah, we're in need. And it's just hard to find them because we never get, if they're either not Kansas certified or, there's something with the certifications and whatever. So then I was like, well, yeah, I'm highly qualified in both chemistry and math, plus my, administration certification and whatever. So then I ended up got hired in Shawnee Mission School District. And so I have been here since, I guess, for 13 years now. So I was at Shawnee Mission West for 11 years, and so far Shawnee Mission Northwest for 2 years. And the reason I'm at Northwest is I had asked for the transfer because it's closer to my son's school, and it's also closer to home. And I'm in the immediate community, and there's a reason why I need to be in the immediate community is because there's so much I need to do locally, and then go from there, because I felt like I was touching a lot of different areas, like these 32 different types of high schools, but not enough time to really focus in one area and be as effective versus just spreading a little bit of here and there. And now I get to do a lot more with local officials and having some word and having them understand what is going on with the Latino population. What we're talking about is higher level, what's going on in the borders with these kids, and why are they being mistreated while they're being held and not being sent to their parents in Mexico, right on the border. So that's also another big issue that affects me on a daily basis when we talk about all this. But wanted to tell you, so then I did continue at UMKC. I did miss that part. And I ended up getting my educational specialist in administration. And I also continued with KU to get my doctorate. So I'm all but dissertation at this point in the doctoral program. And it's only because I had my son and there was some delay there. But I don't know if I want to continue to finish the doctorate. I could, because that's all I need is the last part. I'm done with all the coursework. It's just the research. And when you get to the research level, I mean, it's hard being already in the position of an administrator and then trying to finish the paperwork. But it's been done. It's just getting to that level to be able to do it. But that's kind of my story in a nutshell, I guess. So from your question that you had asked.
I love it. I love it. And Marta agrees with me with talk about an incredible path. Marta, thank you for watching with us. You said so many things that the LEC, whoa, hold on. The LEC stands for and that we, oh, there we go. Okay. And that we just work toward. You talked about how your kiddos were kind of gravitated toward you because you were Latina. You talked about working in the neighborhood where you live. I mean, all of these things that a lot of educators of color agree with and that we experience all of the time, right? So you talked a little bit about your struggles, a couple of your struggles as you proceeded through your journey. What is like one really memorable struggle that you had in regards to your path here as a Latina, as perhaps a Latina administrator, with us not having enough of those, right? Tell us about a struggle you've had.
Okay. I got many struggles, but I can tell you they have all been, I don't consider them struggles. I've kind of taken that in as they're all learning experiences. I'm like, where I now know, like, okay, I know what I need to do to get around your kind of people. So one of the biggest things that comes to me is first year teaching, right? First year teaching, and you've had other speakers talking about that's their hardest year. You know, at first I didn't see that as my hardest year. I saw that as, okay, this is kind of what I do anyway. I'm by nature, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. So that part was not hard. And I always loved grading. When I was growing up, I would grade papers just to play and that kind of thing. But what really stuck to me is teachers there at where I started teaching at Fort Osage High School. There was no minority teachers, but one Black coach that I can remember. And he was the health teacher, PE, and here I am, the Latina, Spanish-speaking bilingual teacher. And there was nobody there that I can associate with. So first year was hard because I didn't have like teacher friends that you could really trust, just because I'm like, yeah, you know, they're not going to understand. They don't get it. And it was hard to kind of find who will help you and support you. And, you know, people, I think, saw me as a threat because here I am teaching geometry, honors geometry in a college algebra class. And they're like, well, why does she get all the stuff? You know, that's kind of, I'm thinking that's the mindset they might have had. And they wouldn't just come and talk to me. You know, it was more of a like haters. That's way to describe it. But at the same time, I didn't allow that because I still had friends outside of education that would help and support me. But I'll tell you what, after my third year, and I also had a mentor. You know, state of Missouri requires you to have a mentoring program first 2 years or so. Man, I never saw my mentor once or twice, okay, per year. And so I didn't even worry about that. I'm just going to be the best that I can be and don't even worry about that. And so sure enough, had the best time, was a good teacher from, you know, good teachers become administrators. That's kind of how you know that something is working. And so I just saw it as, and I can't say all teachers, but if you're a good teacher, you know what your next level is. You will know it. That puts you in places and a path so that you know that that's what it's going to be. And that's why I'm still in this path, still serving as an associate principal. I could move up if I wanted to, but I just feel like there's still so much need that I can do while I'm here. But one of the struggles is, finding those teacher friends that could help you, support you. And that was hard because there was nobody that you could relate to at all. But second, third year, then I started having other teachers that they saw what I was doing. They knew I didn't have discipline problems. They were wondering why. Why is this person not having discipline problems? We're having all these discipline problems. And, one teacher, she was an English teacher, short too, just like me, because I'm not very tall, but I'm short. And she asked me to come in, and I wrote down everything she needed to work on. And she kind of took it offensive. I'm like, well, you asked me to come in. I gave you the truth. And then she tried what I had written for her, short white lady. I'll never forget it. And after she tried everything, she goes, you're right, it worked. I'm like, oh, shoot. I scared myself because, I'm just giving her peer feedback. And so after that, we were good friends, and she finally trusted me, and we were working partners together at Porto's age. But I tell you, nobody really was good with me at first because they didn't know. They were almost scared to come and talk to a Latina teacher because we didn't look alike. Okay.
Yeah.
But that was one struggle beginning. The second struggle when I became an administrator, and not so much in Kansas City, Missouri School District. Kansas City, Missouri School District, I mean, they were so happy that they had a bilingual administrator. If anything, they helped me, motivated me, and really pushed you to your limit. And I felt like that was a good experience. And you learned a lot from the community as well in KCMO. But the other thing is when I then went to Shawnee Mission School District, they were, I came in, I remember first day to the office, and I'm just, hey, how's everybody? Like nothing. And they're like, okay, who's this lady? And they're like, oh, are you here to interpret? I'm like, no, I'm your new administrator, and I don't translate. I go, I'm not hired to translate. So if you ever need somebody to translate, you need to call, the district office, who they already have translators, So no, I'm not here to translate. So I just had to make that known from the get-go, because if you're not setting the tone, and it wasn't like in a bad way or like, badass kind of person. It was more like, no, I go, you get me messed up. I go, I just want you to know I'm your new administrator, and we're just going to have a great time over here. And so I had to set the tone for that. And, till this day, people will say, why are you speaking Spanish? I'm like, because we can. And I make it known. And it's also backing up and supporting the kids who want to talk to me in Spanish. Heck yeah. More than likely, you can talk to me in Spanish. I go, the law, and you're protected by the law. I go, you are allowed to speak your language if you want to. Nobody's going to stop you. And so being an administrator has helped me to really back up the student who struggles in an environment where, we get a lot of non-traditional students in Shawnee Mission who are not used to the setting, what you call, it's a different culture. It's more white, obviously. But you can't say that anymore because this district has also changed. The problem is people haven't changed with all the changes that are going on. So that is one of the struggles that I see on a daily basis. And being in this position allows me to still help teachers out with minority students when we're dealing with discipline and why you have discipline issues. Because discipline issues, they don't just arrive from the teacher. The teacher might have instigated something that's been in their past that they've brought to the forefront. And, once you do that, it's hard for a student to now be that student that wants to listen to what you have to say, because you've messed up that relationship piece with that student. And teachers need to stop being so selfish because they feel like it's about them. And really, it's not you, the teacher, it's the student who there's something that you brought to them that led them to be disrespectful. There was something you did that caused that behavior. And
I think one of the things as a teacher, is to remember. One of the important things to remember is to not take things personally, right?
Right, but it's hard.
It's hard. It is hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I've learned is when you decide to have that teacher and that student come to my office and really find out both sides, you'll end up finding that the majority of the time, 90% of the time, it was misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, and I'll tell you what, yes, I've been in your book studies, but there's another book that we're reading that the school district provides us. We get a choice. But there's one that says, Talking to Strangers, what we should know about the people we don't know. So at the very beginning, teachers, you don't know everything about your student. So when you're in that classroom setting, it's just kind of, really get to know about your students, because they always say relationships. Well, it's more than just relationships. It's taking the time. And it's hard when you have like a class of 28 or 30, for some people. And I always have been an advocate for smaller classes, just because you're going to get more bang for your buck if you have smaller class sizes. Mm-hmm. Students learn. If you ever see an honors class, it's not filled with all 28 kids. An honors class, that's why those kids excel. It's because there's only 14, 15 max on an average. And if every student had that opportunity, I think we would have, a better situation in our classroom setting.
Yeah. Trisha, thank you so much for joining us. Trisha's here. She said, bravo. We don't see many Latinas teaching math or science in our district. Mm-hmm. And Connie, you are such an inspiration. I totally agree. Marta engaging with us. Thank you, Marta. Perfecto. The people have not changed with the school issues with population. Word. Mm-hmm. Change is what she meant. So, yes. That brings up just what we have going on right now, right? Like the push for the systematic change that is kind of happening in pockets, like some criminal justice systems are changing and some cities are requiring what needs to change, or do you think anything needs to change in our school system as a whole to support our Latinx students or students of color better?
Well, we've been learning a lot about justice, equity, and, having everything just that everybody has the same opportunities. But it's already embedded in people's, experiences. And so pretty much the only way Latina educators or Latinx educators are going to be able, or any colored teachers, the best way of reaching out is telling your story. Share it with your students. You have that platform to be able to share and explain more about even the history and why it's the way it is. So using your platform, and I don't mean it in a way where, you go into the classroom and just throw it all out there. No, in little bits and pieces is how you go about also putting it out there. But overall, we need to be more mindful. And what I mean by that is, I had written a paper about being more culturally competent, and that's for all educators. If the more culturally competent that you are, the more you're going to really understand and really, as a leader, being able to maneuver around why certain behaviors are happening in the classrooms or just in schools. Obviously, our curriculum, what you're learning is all European history, and we all know that. And kudos to our Shawnee Mission North High School. They do offer Latin studies, and that's great. And I feel like every high school should be able to have that. At the time, I didn't see that there was a full need of it, because I felt like, we need to offer the same experiences to all students. Why should we have a Latino group here and a Black student union here? Why can't we just all be one group and be able to empower and help each other in the struggles that are, already embedded in the system? This goes back in history. There's just a lot that has come from our history and what's been published in books. but it's all published from the European version. It's not published in the way of, our ancestors. Yeah, from our ancestors. And the history that's been embedded is the European. Okay, so now we're in the time, and there's movement, and thank goodness for what's going on now in society, because it is helping all companies, all institutions. Doesn't matter if you're in the professional or in the educational, but it's helping all institutions right now, this movement. And I'm glad that it's out there. And I wish that, people's whiteness really understand that, what you go through, you have no understanding what we go through on a daily basis, and that's the thing, because I feel like I've worked harder than some of my colleagues as Caucasian administrators, and still I can't seem to get to that next level at times, or get through. So I've become more involved with our local officials for that reason, because I feel like I've been forced to go that route, because that's the only way you're going to get things done. So when people tell you vote, it's important you vote. And at first I saw it as, okay, yeah. I don't even know who to vote for. Well, you will know, because if you get the same president you have now, you're going to be sorry. So you must get out there. You must get out there and vote, okay? And so for that reason, I've been more involved with my local officials at the not just locally, but at the state level. And guess what? They will answer your questions. All you have to do is pick up the phone and tell them, hey, here's the concern I have, and who's taking care of this issue, or is it even taken care of, or are you aware of this issue? And guess what? You will get a call back or an email back. They don't just ignore you. They will respond to you. And if you feel like you're being ignored, all you got to do is go to social media. Hey, I'm being ignored. Guess what? You're going to get a call.
That'll get their attention.
Yeah, nobody wants a bad name. But I don't want to get sidetracked. There's also struggles going through my college experience, actually. When I was at Park, I had turned in a paper, and this, I'll never forget it. It was, his name. But I turned in a paper, and he said, hey, this sounds too Hispanic. And I was like, oh, shoot. At the time, I didn't know I could go and report it to the dean, right? And this is my undergrad. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to leave that alone. I'll redo the paper and see where it goes from there. But the other struggle is that my other, it was in my master's program. I had written a paper about, all you had to do was describe what kind of leader you see yourself as. And I put on there, I'm a transformational leader, because as times change, you have to change with times. And this professor was like, there's no such thing as transformational leader. I'm like, what do you mean there isn't? I go, it's in all the business journals, and, because I do my research. And so I had to back it up. And then I was teaching him in the tail end, but of course you want to challenge me, little Latina girl, right? Now I'm teaching him something that he didn't even know, and he's a professor. So I just want to tell you, like, certain things that, like, we do, it's okay, discuss it, but discuss it in a way where you've got the research, back it up. That was the other thing I was going to say with things that need to change. If you want to make real change with everything that's going on, provide the research. Are kids learning? No, let me get you my, stats as to why we're not reaching so many students of color, or in this discipline area, since, those happen to be the big ones. And also ACT, majority of our ACT, we don't have enough, minority students taking it. And so we need to make sure that, we are coming in with data to make a difference on a daily basis, because you're going to be that voice for those students, because who else is going to take the time? They're all worried about getting their, teaching on and then going home grading, but they don't understand that students of color need that additional, support. And it is hard. It is hard on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you're an administrator and you lead teachers. right? And so with today's challenges, and with what just is so clear that educators need to be reading and studying, what are your thoughts for this upcoming school year, and kind of exposing all of the teachers that you lead to ensure that they're doing some of that reading and some of that learning?
Okay, so number one, we got to stay professional, right? We don't want to just expose everyone, but we want to have those conversations. And those conversations would look like, you know, hey, so I'm hearing that you're struggling with this or this, and then how can we provide you that additional support? So you have to approach it in that way. Now, if there's a situation that comes up where, you know, I've had a situation where retired substitute teacher has come in and says, hey, we don't want to hear any of that Spanish talk over here. Otherwise, go back to Mexico. You know, we've heard some of those comments coming out of them. And I'll tell you what, those students confided in me to come and tell me what was going on in that classroom. And I was able to go in and resolve that situation by assuring them that this substitute is not going to return back in our building, because that's the last thing we need. And I'll tell you what, our school district feels the same way. We do have issues where, and I'm not saying just our school district, I experienced this in Kansas City, Missouri school district. Those situations are taken care of. It's something that you don't see as much out in the open, but I can tell you that our district has now hired a director of diversity and inclusion, and we've had a lot of professional development in that area. And so with all the changing demographics, which guess what, they listen that there is, because it wasn't just coming from me, it was coming from other people about the changing demographics, but every school district, they know what's going on in their district. If a district leaders do not know the changes in demographics, then there's something really wrong there and they need to get rid of those people. But I can tell you this, most leadership, school leadership, district leaders, they know what's coming, because they have to always plan for what, you know, their enrollments, how many teachers, right? How many teachers are allotted per school. So those things are happening on a daily basis. But the thing I do worry about is the teachers who are still not culturally competent enough, that sometimes they might say something that sounded racist or offensive, and they don't know they have said it. So that's the only thing, is that's why I think it's important to be culturally sensitive and really respect the students. And that's why I say relationships are key to a lot of these matters. But, you know, the big thing is we got to get rid of this hatred that's going on right now, and just how the United States has been so divisive in this process. And, you know, a lot has to do with leadership, the current leadership that's in place, that, you know, we can still control by voting. So it has to start from a leader that's going to set the tone for how to react and behave.
Well, and us understanding our rights and understanding that groups of people have really died for our rights to vote. And, you know, we as women, we as people of color, Black Americans, you know, that just being an active member of society in that way, in order for it to trickle down all the way to those students sitting in those desks, right? Like you said, it starts up here, but all those policies that get put in place impact our students and our teachers, right? And how well our teachers can do their jobs, you know? So we talked a lot or a little bit about the challenges, but there's so much brightness in your future and at the schools that you're at. What are you looking forward to in your future in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, you know, my big thing is being able to be that change, how to make change, but make change to better our students. And not just our Latino students, but all students whose resources are not completely there. I mean, if you look at a school, Shawnee Mission, for example, Shawnee Mission Northwest, we have all these resources. There's no reason why we cannot graduate every kid on time, okay? But there's so much stuff happening in some homes that it's so hard for us to be in that home on a daily basis. And so if I could do something where we can merge from having access to home to school in a bigger way, for example, mental health services. Right now they're talking about providing additional mental health services in the schools. Well, we have 2 social workers already in the high school. That's more than what other high schools have. But every high school in Cheyenne Mission has 2. And guess what? It's not enough. They are so needed. And there's so many other issues that have arisen from the time we were teenagers to the teenagers nowadays. And I'm speaking at the high school level, but I know the issues are very similar at the elementary and middle schools right now. And we're struggling with that because of the mental health issues. And parents are not the parents we had back in the day, you know. So, and a lot of our Latino students are the parents themselves. So they're taking care of themselves because there's not really a parent in the picture. So, and I say that in the sense that from my experiences, but if I can be a change agent in support for all these students, that there's no reason why no student should graduate. They should all be able to finish high school. So,
I mean, it saddens me to know that 30 to 40% of Latino boys in Kansas City aren't graduating right now. And I agree, you're right. I mean, for us to seek those resources to make it possible for all of our students to graduate high school at least, right? And then giving them the access to explore post-secondary experiences, right? Whether that be trade school or jumping into a career, into a job. Yeah, well, I appreciate your dedication to that because our students need it, you know. What tips or advice do you have for teachers, parents, or students in our community?
Well, number one, our students. Students have to understand that the only person stopping them from being successful is themselves. And the key thing is being able to build their motivation, their self-esteem, and build them to be confident that they can contribute to society in positive ways. Because a lot of the times they see just what's at home, and that what's at home is not always healthy, but that they can change the cycle. And that is one big thing that we need to be more visible and serve as role models for those students. And I just don't know how to reach out to all of them, you know, and it does take time to build their self-confidence. And so it takes time, and it's not just, you know, a one-time meeting with them, but it's ongoing, checking in on them and making sure that you are building that self-confidence that they can do it and they can make it. And they need to stop putting barriers just because, oh, I'm Latino or Latina. They're not going to pick me. You'll be surprised because I tell them, you'll be surprised. You're not only book smart, but you're street smart, right? Book smart and street smart make you twice as better out, and you're bilingual. Oh, shoot. You know, that's another factor you have going for yourself. And that's another reason why I know you'll be successful. But being able to tell them that on an ongoing basis, you know, they might not hear it at home, but as long as they're hearing it from school, guess what? And you're telling them on an ongoing basis, they're going to end up being successful, and I guarantee it. And that's what I say to the students. And teachers have that power on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And then
confidence.
Yeah.
So it all ties in. So my message to students is also to parents. Parents don't have enough faith in their students because all they see is the bad stuff at home. You know, kids are going to act up at home too, and at school they're different individuals. But, you know, a lot of the parents don't believe me that, hey, your kid's really good. They have a lot of potential and you need to start hitting on this or this. But a lot of the parents don't have that Americanized high school experience, so they don't get it until you have a talk with them. You know, it's like me when my parents didn't know about me going to college. You know, they had to talk to that counselor at Park college. And if it wasn't for that counselor, I wouldn't be where I'm at. So it takes like someone, an educator, to let the parents know, hey, there's potential. Yeah, you can call and make a bad call. Yeah, they were acting up. They were talking so much in class. But hey, I'm just calling you to let you know that's what was happening. But aside from that, I've looked at their grades. I've looked at their test scores. They're all doing great. They're strong in these areas. I mean, when you're calling, also provide, to teachers, give 3 positives to the 1 negative. Normally it's 2 for the 1, right? But I say do 3. 3 positives of what's going on if you're calling on a bad call. But do give the problem that you're having, and you'll get more response and more respect from the families, because Latino families, from the ones I've dealt with, they don't mess around. But then I know the families that I know I need to work more with and really help them understand that, your kid has a lot of potential. And as an administrator, you see a lot of the reality of that student situation versus in the classroom. And that's why I tell teachers, build those relationships and build them early if possible, and spend time with those students. And then for the parents, as far as I can say, as parents, be involved in school, because you don't understand that, we're so involved in the elementary level, somewhat in middle school. And when they get to high school, they kind of lose the interest because they're like, oh, they're grown enough. They know how to take care of that, of themselves. But that's not true. They still need your support all the way to high school level. So be involved in whatever they're in. If you can't get off work, then, send an auntie or send the grandparents to their event, because that's still showing that the kid is supported and they still have family there. Otherwise, here comes the Latino kid with no parents, and don't worry about being embarrassed. Nobody's going to talk about you. Other parents don't care. What parents and coaches care about is that you're there. A lot of the times our Latino parents are like, well, I don't even have clothes to look good. Don't worry about that. Just show up in your jeans and t-shirt. You'll fit right in, because nobody dresses up anymore, to be honest. So just come to how you are. Nobody's here to judge. We'd rather talk to you than not at all. Get to know you.
Yeah. And some of that responsibility is definitely on our schools, right? Like our schools and our teachers building that welcoming community, and like you said, when we don't have, like, I speak Spanish and English, but I don't speak Burmese, right? I don't speak Vietnamese. So having those resources and accessing them when it's time for my Vietnamese speaking parents to come in, right? So lastly, and I'm sorry to wrap up the conversation because I've loved to learn more about you. I'm so inspired by you just when I interact with you, seriously. What is a quote or something that you live by on a daily basis?
It used to be where, I'd rather teach a student, not just to teach them, but to teach them a lifetime. That's where they can survive from here on forward. But now it's more like, live your life to its fullest, be kind to others. And I feel like that's going to take you a long way, just because it doesn't matter who you interact with, as long as you're kind and you're willing to work and you show that, you're here to take care of business, that you'll get respect from everybody and people will start seeing your work. So overall, I would just say be kind, and, with everything that's going on in society, don't, it's things that get in the way, you should be able to just overcome. So, being kind to others, and self-care too for educators. We don't do enough of that. So for the educators, self-care is huge. Before I wouldn't take vitamins, now I take vitamins, and I actually exercise by walking. So I do my walking, and then I do my reading, and then I do my extracurricular activities outside of work, and that's helping with the organization of getting some officials elected for the next election in August, so for the primary. So I'm very involved with that. So
good. Well, that's awesome, Connie. Yeah. Thank you so much for those words. Definitely in a place in our society where kindness would be nice to see a little more often. There's just a lot going on, right? I guess when isn't there though, right? There's always a lot going on. But Connie, it's been so inspiring listening to your journey and listening to your path. I just get really excited when I see really passionate educators and administrators that are serving kids, because I just feel so excited and happy for the kids that you serve. Thank you for that. Thank you for the work that you do for them and their families. Thank you for being a part of our community and for joining us today. Any last thoughts or words before we go?
No, I just actually wanted to let everybody know that, during your downtime, especially during COVID times, if you feel like there's just something more you want to do, get yourself, find out some resources. And for example, Harvard School online, they have free online courses that you can build yourself as far as your professional development and being just stronger at supporting what you want to make change on. Because that is our other responsibility kind of in the underground, where you do have to be that change agent and be an ongoing learner. So I know Harvard School offers free online courses. I did write down the JSTOR, JSTOR. It's a free during COVID times. It's free research journals, like, instead of going to the library to find all these things. It's right there, the JSTOR, and those are all credible research journals for you professionally. And the other thing is do some reading. Do a lot of reading, because before I wouldn't do a lot of reading just because being bilingual makes you not be a real reader. But then as you read more, you understand, like, oh my gosh, like you start seeing things in a different way. And so if you're not a reader, just start picking up whatever book, because you're going to find out that the more you read, you're going to have more avenues, more doors open to you, because you're able to relate to a lot of what's in front of you.
I love it. We had a speaker with the LEC recently who told us that using this COVID time as a superpower, like we feel kind of sad that we're at home more often, and it's like, use that time, print off some articles, read a book, there's a lot of opportunity there. Connie, again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be in touch, and if anyone wants to connect, Connie is over in Shawnee Mission. Thank you, Connie, so much.
Please feel free to connect. I'll be more than happy to mentor you or help you get to the next level.
I love it. I might have to call you myself.
Yes. Please.
All right, Connie, thank you so much. Have a good night.
All right.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, y'all. Really quick, just letting you know our Platicas of the week are a little different this week. Of course, we're making chile in the kitchen right at this moment. But we are teaching kindness isn't enough, our Platica of the week at 5 o'clock. So join us at 5 o'clock for our Platica of the week. Bye, everyone.